In this video, we're going to talk about 3 tactics that you can use for the Drukhari. Now, we've uploaded a ton of other tactics in our Knights of the Game Table membership website. If you're interested in getting those other tactics and learning more about becoming a member, click the link in the description of this video and you can learn how to sign up now. So the first tactic we need to talk about here is the homunculus. He has this crazy good ability that allows him to stop enemy units from completing actions and getting objectives secured if they're within 9 inches of him. This comes off the back of putting him in the Druhkari coven, and when he's in that coven, he gets the warlord trait called Fear Incarnate. Let me explain to you what Fear Incarnate does. At the end of your movement phase, you can select one enemy unit within 9 inches. Of course, they've got to be within that warlord because it's a warlord trait. Then you're going to roll 3d6. If you roll higher than the unit's leadership characteristic until the start of your next movement phase, that unit cannot perform actions and they lose objective secured. Now, this is huge because if your opponent is taking secondaries that require them to complete actions, you're going to cut off those victory points from them. And even more importantly, you're going to prevent them from scoring those primary objectives, which is how you win games, especially in the competitive setting. Now, a really cool way that you can use this as well is if you pop this off on something within 9 inches, you swoop a transport over, something like a Venom, and you unload some infantry so you can get objective secured and your opponent is not going to get those points. Now, something I love about that tactic is it's really straightforward and it doesn't seem that hard to use. And what you're going to find with the Drukhari going through this 9th edition codex for them is a lot of their stuff is that kind of sneaky, sabotaging type tactics. I mean, they're really good at being saboteurs in 8th, and they definitely didn't lose that momentum in the 9th edition codex. Another great example of this is the Agents of Vect stratagem. You get this stratagem if you're running the Cabal of the Black Heart. This stratagem costs 0 CP, and here's how it goes. You're going to use this stratagem after your opponent uses a stratagem, aside from a command reroll stratagem, and until the end of the battle, the CP cost for that stratagem is increased by 1. Now, you can only use this stratagem once per game, but it is a massive, massive monkey wrench to throw in your opponent's army. Imagine that you're going up against Space Marines, someone with like Ultramarines or even Blood Angels, and they rely on using that transhuman ability to give them that extra durability. Well, you've just costed them an extra command point every time they want to use transhuman. Another army that this would be devastating to is the Death Guard. If you use it on the Deadwalk again, which allows them to resurrect dead Poxwalkers, or the Mutant Strain, which is a stratagem that effectively allows Poxwalkers to dish out mortal wounds, you're going to be hurting anybody that runs a nice Poxwalkery type Death Guard army, which with the Book of Rust update is very likely to happen. Another army that this is a real big pain to is going to be Necrons, especially if they're running Catans. Catan shards have a stratagem available called Dimensional Destabilization, and what that does is it allows them to pick another Catan power to use that turn. What you can do is effectively make that stratagem cost 1 extra command point, and now they're not going to be able to run that nearly as often. By reducing the threat of the Catans, you are going to cripple anyone running a competitive Necron army. And then for the final tactic that you can use with the Drukhari, we're going to talk about mortal wound spam. Nobody likes mortal wound spam in their face. It's terrible to deal with, especially if you're running armies that, can stand up against normal damage like Death Guard, where you're, laughing at 2 damage type things. Well, mortal wounds do nothing against your disgustingly resilient. So let's talk about mortal wound spam. The first thing you can do to dish out mortal wound spam is take the Succubus. Give it the Precision Blows Warlord trait, and make sure to equip it with the Shardnet and Impaler. Here's how the Precision Blows Warlord trait reads. Each time an unmodified hit roll of 6 is made for a melee attack by the Warlord that has that trait, the target unit suffers mortal wounds equal to the damage made with that weapon, and the attack sequence ends. So effectively, if you're rolling hit rolls of 6 and you get those mortal wounds off, the attack sequence ends and you don't have to worry about making those wound rolls. On top of that, you've attacked with the Shardnet and Impaler, which does 2 flat damage. And on top of that, you get to make 2 additional attacks with that weapon. So by doing this, it allows you to get 2 to 4 mortal wounds every time you attack. However, there's a way to beef it up even more so you're getting 3 to 6 mortal wounds every time you make an attack with this thing. You're going to do that by adding the Dark Lotus Toxin Relic and using Adrenalite combat drugs. The Dark Lotus Toxin Relic is from the Book of Rust update, so you're not going to find it in the Drukhari Codex, but it is a relic available if you use the detachment Cult of Strife and apply tactics from the Book of Rust. What the Dark Lotus Toxin does is it allows you to add +1 strength and damage to the melee weapons that that bearer has, meaning you're now dishing out 3 flat damage instead of 2 flat damage, so on 6s you're going to be dishing out 3 mortal wounds on 6s instead of 2. And then with the Adrenalite combat drug, you're getting an extra attack anytime you charge or make a heroic intervention. So instead of that 8 attacks, you're getting 9, which is going to increase your odds of rolling those 6s. So if you follow this strategy, you're sure to dish out 3 to 6 mortal wounds every time you attack, statistically speaking. Another great way to dish out some mortal wounds with the Witch Cult is by using the stratagem Eviscerating Flyby. What that does is it allows you to select a Witch Cult unit that has the keyword fly, and if it flies over an enemy infantry unit, you're going to roll a d6 for every model that's in that unit. And on a 5-up, they're going to suffer a mortal wound. So if you fly over a pack of 20 Poxwalkers, you get to roll, you guessed it, 20 d6, and on 5-ups, they're taking mortal wounds. Or if you fly over a squad of 20 warriors, you get to roll 20 d6, and on every 5-up, they're taking mortal wounds. Now, if you do this to a squad of Blade Guard veterans, if you get 3 5s or 6s, you're gonna at least kill off one of those guys without having to deal with the massive, tactical strategy it takes to take out some Blade Guard veterans. You're probably better off using this on a, squad of Primaris Space Marines, or even some basic units. For example, if you're going up against Death Guard, Plague Marines, or Poxwalkers. But even if you're going up against a horde of orcs, dealing some mortal wounds to those boys is not going to be a bad thing. Another way you can dish out some mortal wounds with the Drukhari is if you use Shockprow to allow your Raiders and Ravagers to take the Talus Ichor Injector. What this does is it allows you to make a single attack once per fight phase with whatever's taking that special war gear, and if you score a hit roll, the target suffers D3 mortal wounds, and that's it, the fighting sequence ends. Now this becomes very handy when you combine it with all the other things we've talked about with the multiple small units and the other mortal wound combos. If you take 3 squads of these, you're going to have the potential to dish out 9 mortal wounds. So with that said, there's a lot of various tactics that you can use with the Drukhari to dish out mortal wounds. And that's going to be 3 9th edition Drukhari tactics that you can use right now. Now keep in mind that we've uploaded a ton of Drukhari content in our Knights of the Game Table membership site. If you're interested in seeing all the Drukhari tactics that we posted up there, then go ahead, click the link in the description of this video and see where you can sign up to become a Knights of the Game Table member. There, you're not only going to get access to all the Drukhari tactics we've uploaded, but all the other updated codexes for 9th edition, along with some epic painting tutorials, as well as access to the Knights of the Game Table crew for Q&A and discounts on miniatures. So go ahead and click the link in the description, sign up if you haven't already, and I hope to see you in the membership.